meet you again. My name is Victor Ochen. I am from Uganda, and I'm the director for African Youth Initiative Network. We are a human rights organization and working hard to promote peace and justice, especially in this part of Africa, Uganda, and other parts of the continent, which has been through years of conflict. Over the years, I've been doing this work. First of all, I was born and raised in the northern part of Uganda, in a community that had several experiences of human rights violations as a result of war. So as a child, I grew up seeing people being tortured, people being abducted, children as young as me then, 12 years, 10 years, being recruited and forcefully made to be soldiers in what we call child soldiers. So this is the kind of community I grew up in. It's a community that inspired my journey based on my personal experience. In a very simplified version, it is a journey that I picked or I developed from my personal painful experience. My story represents the stories of pain, the story of suffering that has been transformed to become the story of hope. So the whole concept was, how do we transform our trauma, our pain, our suffering from war and make that to become an energy to promote peace, to promote human rights, and also to stand up for justice. So this is the kind of community I grew up in. I am inspired by my own personal experience. I didn't start doing what I'm doing today because I studied it, not because I researched on it, but because I lived it. And I thought, as a human being, as somebody who grew up in this kind of environment, my next question was, how do we make sure that I become a source of change to bring an end to the kind of suffering that I've been seeing and I've been experiencing in my community for far too long. But today we are here, and over the years, the journey has been remarkable. It has been inspirational to us, but also has become more of a motivation to the members of society, to the point where we're saying, even though you've been through worst and worst experience of human rights violations in life, you can still be a human rights activist, because the concept, the message, the motivation is that let us be the last people who have seen all these kind of violations and be the first people to open up the chapter and give a chance for people to never see what we saw, to never experience what we experienced. And of course, I'm happy that it's been a long, remarkable, at the same time also exhausting, but most importantly, it's been inspirational to me, to other people, because we protect rights, we stand up for rights, we promote justice, and we restore hope. That is my trajectory. That's my life in this work of human rights defense. INET is the organization that I started 15 years ago. And why I started 15 years ago, it was because we were living in conflict. We were living on the peak of war. And then when I saw my friends, my brothers, my sisters, my community members, my friends being abducted, being tortured, being made to suffer, a lot of kids gave up in life because all they saw was their own suffering and losing their parents. So then we say, can we get to the point where we can mobilize ourselves and empower the community, make them engaged in promoting peace and justice? And that's why we went on to form the organization, primarily to mobilize youth and communities in promoting peace and justice. But of course, along the way, as we're doing our work, we're working on in the society, you find that whereas you talk about peace, whereas you talk about justice and human rights, it is very difficult for people who are suffering, for people who are at the front line, to understand that this is the human rights, this is the justice, this is the peace. So then it would take us and not so long time, but a very deliberate effort to make sure that we transformed what peace is, what justice is, what human right is, and give it a human face. The whole concept was, how can we make peace, justice, and human rights a reality, not just a well-written document, but make it a reality where somebody whose right has been abused, who has suffered from conflict, can realize that I am human being. I am entitled to protection. I need justice. I need peace. I need to be given love. So this is the all issues we've been working on. And it's been about helping us have a platform, have a space, have a community that we belong to promote the rights, but also to make sure that on our own, we are doing something to support our community. So that was the reason for forming the African Youth Initiative Network, to mobilize youth and community and engage them in promoting peace and justice. We're looking for peace and justice because we've been in a community where it's been littered, it's been covered with human rights violations. And that's what we wanted to bring an end to. So that's why we formed INET. Or victims who have been through years and years of suffering. So here is, over the years, we realized that not until people heal emotionally, not until people heal physically from torture, from violations, from rape, they will not be able to heal historically. And they will not be able to have a sustainable future. There is definitely no amount of money, no amount of compensation that can undo the past injustice. But the reason why something is done right now is to help restore a bit of hope, give people a chance to live a life of dignity, a life of peace, and a life of hope. That's why reparation comes in. That's why healing comes in. So the whole issue is, we thought when you focus at healing, we are answering the question of humanity. When you focus at healing our society, we are looking to let us not repeat the historical wrong, something that has gone bad, something that became very problematic. And then when you look at how to support reparation, why reparation is important is, first of all, it gives the life that has been shattered, that has been abused, a chance to regain dignity, to see fairness. And then, we can get what we call perpetrators. We can get war criminals. We can get abusers or violators and prosecute them and imprison them. But as long as it is only being done for the purpose of law, it is not effective. Because we believe that justice means nothing if it undermines the principles of fairness. Fairness being like feeling for people who have been through atrocities. And law means nothing if it undermines the principles of justice. So we're trying to say, let us advance law in a way that appreciates the principles of justice, and let us promote justice in such a way that promotes the spirit of fairness. Fairness is about stepping in, feeling the pain, identifying with people's pain, identifying with people's suffering, and then giving people a chance to become actors and leaders and owners of their own fate. And that's why reparation is key. That's why healing is important. It's about delivering fairness to somebody who has been through too much life. Something I grew up not liking it. I can't bear unfairness to fellow human. It is just not okay. So that's why reparation is important. This has been our journey. This has been our success. Refugees around the world, they don't feel welcomed, they don't feel supported, they don't feel loved. So the question is, how do Ugandans do it? Are we proud about that? The answer is yes. As a Ugandan, I am myself very proud of our country's decision to say, let us open our hearts, let us open our borders, and let us open our arms and welcome people who are fleeing from injustice, fleeing from war, fleeing from suffering, and trying to survive. So I think one unique thing about Uganda, which is not really maybe all that the best, is one, Ugandans knows what it means to be a refugee. Majority of Ugandans have been through war, they've been through suffering, they've been through displacement. They know it. It's not something new to them. So that's why they're very good at owning people's pain, owning people's suffering. And they're very good at seeing that I can't just sit and be at peace when my neighbors are dying. Or I can't say, no, go back to your country. Yet I know they're fleeing from death and you're sending them back to die. That is not how we do things. That is not how we can bring change. So we are grateful as Ugandans, but also most importantly, we are very happy that our government has a good policy on refugee support. But of course, most importantly, we feel our country should play more role in bringing peace and stability in those countries where refugees are coming from. So that's what we would be answering. There's one, we welcome and support them and we accommodate them as refugees, which is very important, but most important should be about moving also forward to say, how can we, among the refugees, bring that harmony, bring that peace, bring that tolerance. Meanwhile, work with the governments of these countries where people are coming from so that we can see that we promote peace so that there's no more war. We mediate in conflict, we bring an end to suffering. So this has been an area of focus, and this has been something that we should be proud about. So Uganda is a plus about refugee, but Ugandans more and more amazing because even though they don't have much money, they don't have much resources, but they're saying, come, even if you're poor, let's survive together. This has been key. In Uganda, just like countries around the world, of course, Catalonia and Spain and all other European countries around the world, people have suffered from COVID. And Uganda as well, the impact of COVID is just not like any other. It is strong. It is true that we have been through, we might have not seen heavy statistics of people who are dying from COVID. It might be possible that people have not died a lot from COVID, but the biggest question has been, are we telling enough? Are we talking about enough? We lack, first of all, lack resources to test. We don't have enough resources to test. And then even if, I think Ugandans are lucky that we live in this part of Africa where people live on organically grown food. So in terms of the one good benefit is whatever is needed for the vitamins in order to facilitate the healing processes or management of COVID has been that Ugandans are blessed with a lot of food, but also the lifestyle, the settlement package of Uganda. People don't live in apartments here. People live in different homes. But of course, the worst thing that came with the COVID has been it reinforced the existing inequality in such a way that people felt too poor to lock down, especially when they were enforcing the lockdown conditionality. People were too poor to lock down because majority lives on hand-to-mouth economy and making it quite difficult for people to just go and lock home and do nothing about it. So it's been an area of challenge. Economically, it's so affected. And then the other issue has been the level of, low level of infrastructure, the basic service delivery institutions, like machineries, we don't have much here. Hospitals are not as well equipped as the one in Europe. But again, I think that's why the enforcement was a bit violent. The forces use so much violence in enforcing the lockdown conditionality. And that's what we saw. A lot of women were arrested together with their children. They were imprisoned. They were taken to prison. A lot of youth were arrested because they were violating the lockdown conditions. And this brought a lot of tension between the citizens and the government. So that had a very big political implication in one way or another in the country. But in terms of how we are handling it, the health system right now, yes, there is COVID, but also to many people like us who have been through epidemic or diseases like this is not new. COVID is bad, it is not new, and it's something that the population identifies a lot with. They experience that And when they compare, they find that this compared to many others that have been through, like Ebola, like meningitis, like measles, like malaria, that kills many people every day. You find that COVID is bad, but it's not new. It's not new in terms of the health crisis that we have faced. Of course, still around COVID, let us agree to the fact that as bad as COVID has been, and it is still bad, we don't need to forget to embrace the learning opportunities that comes with COVID. It brought so much learning in such a way that, one, that we are a human race. We are so connected to one another. We cannot say that the suffering is a distant reality. Majority of people used to think diseases like this, death like this nature would only come from Africa. It would only be Africa and to some extent Asia that would have this kind of suffering. So many countries or many powerful nations wouldn't expect something like this. But it's just a lesson that if one of us on this planet is suffering, we can all suffer. If whether it started in Wuhan or anywhere, look at where COVID has reached now. Everybody in all corners of the planet have been affected. So it's a message that we can't claim prosperity. If we can't claim development, if we allow some other parts of us fellow humans to suffer, it is just a matter of time before their suffering becomes our own suffering. So from the humanitarian point of view, we got to realize that we have to be there for one another. We have to promote an early on response and make sure people live a life of safety and dignity, as opposed to waiting that let there be suffering first, then we can come in. It doesn't work that way. COVID has brought so much lesson that we are not too far away from disaster. It's just a matter of time. So we also don't have to wait until suffering or disasters knocks our doors. Then we need to know that they're suffering. Suffering is real. We don't have to wait until we feel it, then we know that it is real. So that's about COVID. I would want to talk to my friends in Europe, and especially in the Catalan young people, to my young friends, the youth, the girls and the boys, the beautiful girls and the boys of Catalan, the Catalonians. I must say, I love you. I love your country. It's very beautiful. But also, I want to give a message that, you're in a much richer nation compared to ours. I'm from Africa. I'm from Uganda. We are not that rich. We are not rich materially, but we are rich with nature. We have very beautiful nature, and we live with. But also, I've seen that nature can be beautiful. Life can be beautiful. But the challenge that comes about with life is the human effect of beauty, the human effect of nature. Humanity, we admire sometimes, but also we undermines nature. So by being unpeaceful, intolerant, by being not accommodative. So a beautiful country like yours, my fellow young Catalans, is a country of peace. It's a country that should champion the world struggle for human rights, for justice. Look at the spirit, the team spirit in your country, the spirit of unity, a common goal, a common purpose is where every weekend people are watching to Europe for all this kind of sports and all that. The inspiration that comes from that country is huge. So I want to say to my fellow young Catalans, the world as you're seeing is not as beautiful as we think. It's been so heartbreaking to see the number of deaths around the world, and it is happening in our time. So you young Catalans, young people, you're growing in a society that has fairly good enough resources. So as you get into this society with resources at hand or with access to resources, know that around the world, there are people who are living a life of pain and they're not living your life of privileges. So use whatever you have at hand right now to promote, to spread the spirit of love, the spirit of kindness, the spirit of unity, the spirit of tolerance among yourself, but most importantly, to respect every human from any part of the world, regardless of their gender, regardless of their color. They might be black like me, or black like you, or white like you, or white like me, but they're human. What they need is respect. Are we ready to respect humanity beyond borders, my dear young Catalans? Are we ready to celebrate our common humanity? Are we ready to respect our women, our girls and boys should be given all sides of support that they need? And are we ready to promote the world peace? This is what we should do. If you have resources, there's a saying that those whom much is given, much is expected. So you're coming from a rich society with access, you can influence your system, you can influence your government. You should have no choice but let your government stick to caring for fellow human, regardless of their color, regardless of their gender. And I think that's the message I wanted to make it very clearly to the young friends, my brothers and sisters, the young Catalans and the communities in Catalonia. So at the end of the day, it comes back to love, it comes back to humanity, it comes back to peace. Let us work hard, let us stand up for what is right, stand up for peace, and most importantly, promote the spirit of what we call in Africa, Ubuntu. Ubuntu means is a feeling that I am because you are. You are because I am. And we are because of one another. That means we cannot stay without one another. You cannot be at peace when I'm crying, when I'm suffering. So let us support one another. Let us give love and share with the world what we have. What is good for us should be what is good for the world. I really thank you so much. Once again, I'm very, very privileged. I'm happy that we have overcome and we keep on overcoming. We shall survive COVID. And I pray and I hope that your families, your loved one, your institution will be okay. And for now, let me say thank you very much for the talk. Again, my name is Victor Ochen. I am from Uganda, and I'm the director for African Youth Initiative Network. I thank you so very, very much. Gracias.